Okay, so I promise I'm not cheating the request line on this one. I know for a fact, I think probably, at some point, somewhere, for today's episode of Min-Maxing for Fun and Profit, it was in fact Jason, or as you might know him from the impending patron support shoutout, which I guess I'll do now. Hey, this one's brought to you in part by Buffalo. That it was requested I build a melee alchemist, focusing in on the mutagen, but for the life of me, I cannot find where the request was stored. I have to assume it was just set in a video at some point. Guess I need to go back and watch my whole catalog until I catch it. In any case, that's what's going on today. We've got a million min-maxing for fun and profit patron requests for everybody out there who's just ready to make your GMs convert to 5e / for everyone who's done with this rules-intensive, hard-to-learn system and, needs to throw this at their players so they want to convert to 5e, we'll go first party, then third party, back and forth until we get through that request line. Today, though, we're talking about one of my favorite Alchemist builds, one of which I haven't got the chance to play yet, but would really like to. And, fun fact, this one is about, 90-ish% Kingmaker playable. That is, of course, to say the CRPG. Could be 100% playable if they'd fix a couple of things. I'll rant about that on Tuesday. Let's get down to business. Okay, so this build is really simple, really straightforward, gets right to the point, and is really, really deadly. It combines one of the most iconic classes in D&D with one of the most powerful things in D&D. That is to say, we're going to be kind of like a rogue, but we'll have magic, solving a lot of the rogue's weaknesses. Our Alchemist archetype, and we'll get into that in a second, gets the sneak attack class feature, which is really powerful. The rogue loves that. The rogue, however, requires a couple of things to make that really shine. Lacking magic, the rogue needs somebody to flank. Our build, not necessarily. Lacking the ability to pivot if our sneak attack is turned off, the rogue kind of just has not a lot to do. For us, less so. It is super scary. But before we talk about it, let's talk about our race. And if I'm perfectly honest with you, there's only really one race an alchemist should ever be. That race is the vanilla tiefling. Not only does that ability score adjustment +2 dex and int, -2 charisma look really good on us, the buff on stealth checks is exactly what we want, and the alternate racial trait, prehensile tail, allows us to retrieve small stowed objects carried on our person as a swift action and carry items. That's huge for a class that brews potions for value. Sure, the Alchemist has a lot of discoveries that they can use to do this same thing, but getting it in race means that we free up a discovery, which is exactly what you want to do. Our first Alchemist level will not be an Alchemist level, it will be a Rogue level. One of my very favorite dips in this whole game, the Knife Master, helps our class really shine at the art of backstabbing folks. We just need to be here once to grab Sneak Stab. Sneak Stab says that when the rogue makes a sneak attack with a dagger, karambit, kukri, punching dagger, star knife, or swordbreaker dagger, you roll d8s for your sneak attack damage instead of d6, but everything else uses d4s instead of d6s. Now, to talk about the weapon really quickly, Ultimate Combat is a really old book. Ultimate Combat came out way before some of the more modern Pathfinder stuff did, so with that in mind, and either way it'll cost us a feat, our character will be taking the Drow Razor. For their weapon, it's a d4 on a medium weapon, critting 18 to 20 times 2, and it does 2 additional points of damage on a confirmed critical hit or successful sneak attack. It's precision damage that's not multiplied, and technically it's not on that list. So if somebody wants to get real upset about it, then okay, fine, whatever. But I'm pretty sure rules as intended would allow the Drow Razor to, function as a knife, given that this long, slender knife is incredibly sharp along one edge. Otherwise, just grab the kukri. Anyway, levels 2 through 20 will be the same class, and I'm really sure, I'm actually triple sure, because I'm probably putting this in the thumbnail to, tell you what it's about so you'll watch, will be the Vivisectionist Alchemist. It gets a lot of real weird, flavorful surgery kind of stuff, adding anthropomorphic animal, baleful polymorph, awaken, regenerate, all that kind of weird stuff onto its class features. We're basically just here to grab sneak attack. At first level, the Vivisectionist gains sneak attack as a rogue of the same level. If the Vivisectionist already has sneak attack from another class, the levels stack to determine the effective rogue level for sneak attacking. This replaces our bomb, but that's fine, because we want to be up in the faces of folks. Since the Knife Master is modifying us, basically the goal here is to just grab a drow razor and throw d8s at the table until something has died a horrible death. The Alchemist is further good at this with the mutagen. At first level, an Alchemist discovers how to create a mutagen that can be imbibed in order to make yourself stronger at the cost of personality. We select a physical ability score. Of course, we're choosing our dexterity because, I guess I should have said this. The Knife Master Rogue is in fact the Unchained Rogue for free weapon finesse. It's a standard action to drink that mutagen, which can be held in a prehensile tail. Unfortunately, we can't make it any faster for some rules. More on that in a second. But drinking our mutagen gives us a +2 natural armor bonus and a +4 alchemical bonus. That wording is clutch. What else gives you an alchemical bonus, right? Nothing. That stacks with everything to the selected ability score for 10 minutes per level. Since we're buffing our dexterity, it will hit our wisdom and thus our will save, which ironically is our worst save, but I think we will be fine. Remember when I said the Alchemist helps shore up one of the biggest weaknesses of the rogue? Yeah, we don't need to flank. Invisibility, greater invisibility, vanish, all three on our formula list. Attacking from invisible means we're attacking flat-footed, means we're doing sneak attack damage, which is kinda beautiful, but what if I told you? You could cast invisibility as a move action. Check out the only trait we'll be talking about today, Accelerated Drinker. That allows us to drink a potion as a move action instead of a standard action, as long as you start your turn with the potion in hand. Now, of course, it's been ruled that an extract is not considered a potion, a mutagen is not considered a potion. They're separate entities that take the required actions to drink. The Alchemist, of course, gets Brew Potion as a bonus feat and can brew potions of any formula they know up to 3rd level using their Alchemist level as caster level. So, when we're spending a little bit of downtime, a little bit of gold, something crafting rules to whip up potions of invisibility, to carry with our tail, to drink in combat, value is what that is. Let's hit the feats, shall we? Right out the gate at level 1, we'll take 2-weapon fighting. We'll have to start with daggers at the beginning, since we aren't proficient with the weapon we want until 3rd, but that's okay. 2-weapon fighting, of course, lets us make a second attack. Both of our attacks taking that -2, which is pretty nice, when you're throwing around extra d8s. Anyway, at level 3, by the time we've got our buffed base attack, we'll grab exotic weapon proficiency. We will, of course, choose the Drow Razor, so we can switch to a weapon that crits more and does extra damage when we're doing what we want to do. Now, these feats are a little weird for us, but I just really like them for our build. For levels 5, 7, and 9, we'll take everyone's least favorite chain of prereq feats: Dodge, Mobility, and Spring Attack. Dodge, of course, will pad our AC by 1. Mobility gives us a +4 to AC versus attacks of opportunity provoked by movement. Spring Attack is the fun one, though. As a full round action, you can move up to your speed and make a single melee attack without provoking from the target of your attack. You can move both before and after the attack, but you must move at least 10 feet before the attack, and the total distance that you move cannot be greater than your speed. You can't use this ability to attack a foe that is adjacent to you at the start of your turn, but that's just kind of hilarious. When people are trying to find you because you're invisible, you're in constant motion. On a battlefield where lots of bad guys are, suddenly someone's getting shanked for too much damage, next turn it's someone else. This is also pretty clutch for battlefield support. Maybe you need to move a little farther. Maybe my friend's in danger. Maybe my invisibility's about to run out, and I'd like to run, stab, end up on the other side of the board, on the other side of my stronger friends. It just seems really good for us. Anyway, At level 11, we'll take improved 2-weapon fighting. For more attacks, for more powerful stuff. Piranha Strike comes in kind of late at 13th, but most of our damage isn't coming in from a modifier, so adding in a couple extra points of damage isn't as good because at this point, by level 13, 7d8 worth of sneak attack, yeah, scary powerful. But we will still take it to tack on a little more. Now, sometimes this build will be standard action, move, and stab, and honestly, Vital Strike doesn't look horrible on this build if you need to drink a potion as a move action. But I'm pretty sure after all of our buffs are ticking, we're full attacking. We're full attacking with a less than good base attack bonus, while using 2-weapon fighting and Piranha Strike, but you know, combat rhythm. When you deal damage with a melee attack to an opponent you have already damaged this round, you can reduce the total of any voluntary penalties to your melee attack rolls imposed by actions or feats by 1 to a minimum penalty of 0. This reduction lasts until the beginning of your next turn and stacks with itself. And you know, we have haste on our spell list as well, so end of the day, an Alchemist's base attack is 14, 9, 4. Haste plus 2, 9 plus 1, 4, that's 6 attacks, if I'm counting that correctly. So we can reduce our penalties by 5, eating Piranha Strike, and remember, we're probably regularly attacking against flat-footed. This build is scary good, especially against other characters optimized to be dex-based. Yes, we'll have higher armor class than everyone else in the party, but we'll have a considerably lower flat-footed, which means we're better at killing some of the more optimized things in this game. It's a win-win. But just in case you wanted to do more damage, that's what your last 2 feats are for. Hammer the Gap says when you take a full attack action, each consecutive hit against the same opponent deals extra damage equal to the number of previous consecutive hits you have made against that opponent this turn. This damage is multiplied on a critical hit. So when you hit somebody 6 times, assuming all of our attacks connected, that's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, 15 damage all told, plus 2 more per for every sneak attack from the Drow Razor, and all of these should be sneak attacks. That's 27 extra damage if all 6 of your attacks connect before modifiers, which will be higher than a lot of people's before sneak attack. Yeah, no. Alchemists are mean. This build does so much damage from dice that I'm not ever really super worried about what a modifier looks like, so we're waiting all the way to our final feat to pick up Double Slice, which says add your strength bonus to damage rolls made with your offhand weapon. Normally you're only adding half. Now, there's some contention as to how feats are supposed to read. Remember that Double Slice was made far, far before the Agile enchantment, which we will of course be using on our Drow Razor to add dexterity to damage. Some crowds will say, well, this feat specifically says strength, so you're not changing anything. Dead feat, haha. Some people will say that, well, you're adding your dex instead of your strength. That feat overrides this. I think it's more than reasonable to let, the D4 do all of the dex damage, especially considering that extra little bit isn't going to make that much difference in the long run. We're just rounding it out. Anyway, speaking of rounded out, let's talk about some discoveries. Character level 3, or Alchemist 2, will take a staple, arguably the most staple thing anywhere, Infusion. This allows us to share our spells. Without it, we cannot share our spells. We can also, with this, pass our spells out to our friends. Hey man, I heard you liked all that invisibility stuff I'm doing. Hold this. Drink it at your leisure. Also, using their actions instead of your actions to possibly heal, to buff, splitting the action economy in your favor. Because that lets you stab people in the kidneys to death. Extend Potion is next. A number of times per day equal to our int. We can cause any potion we drink that does not have an instantaneous duration to function at twice its normal duration. This doesn't apply to extracts, that's fine. We have Brew Potion, we'll be making our own. We intend in combat to be drinking potions, not extracts anyway. At 7th, we'll take something for our mutagen, the Bone Spike mutagen, which will increase our natural armor bonus by 2. As, Our bones on our elbows, knuckles, spine, and shoulder pierce our skin and expose themselves as large spikes. Owie. Hope you're not afraid of needles, kids, because you're one now. And yeah, I know, we're gonna try to be attacking from invisibility most of the time. And we have some tricks to cheat things that can sniff us out, but the scenario exists where it's the bottom of the ninth and we don't have that kind of thing, or things are just able to find us. Buffing your armor class is never a bad thing. It's combined extracts next, which says that when an alchemist creates an extract, they can place 2 formula into 1 extract. When the extract is consumed, both formula take effect. This extract has a level 2 levels higher than the highest level formula placed in the extract. So it takes a little while before all the value kicks in here. But remember that the alchemist list is pretty robust. Displacement, haste, cure spells, tack any of those onto invisibility, and you've essentially bought yourself a turn to help bide us over. Next up, we'll take Chameleon. Hey, wait a minute. We took this discovery at character level 11. Or Alchemist 10. Whee! +8 to stealth checks. See what I mean? It's not hard with enchantments and stealth giving you that massive +40 if you stand still or +20 if you moved. Yeah, they won't find you. Next up, it's Greater Mutagen, which gives us a +4 or 6 with bone stuff, natural armor bonus, a +6 alchemical bonus to 1 physical ability score, our dex, a +4 alchemical bonus to a 2nd physical ability score, our constitution, because we don't need strength, but a -2 on both associated mental ability scores, so we're going to hit ourselves in our wisdom and our charisma. But that's probably fine, because now we're suddenly doing +1 extra damage and we just got way more hit points than we've had for the whole campaign. Our D8 hit dice really likes that. Again, especially if we get caught with our proverbial invisible pants down. There's a joke in there somewhere about the Emperor's new clothes, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about more stuff. Like, the dumbest mutagen I've ever seen ever. Splitting mutagen from the Monster Hunter's Handbook. Once per day, while under the effects of his mutagen, the alchemist can split into 2 identical copies of himself as an immediate action after being damaged by a piercing or slashing weapon. So, best case scenario, don't dodge the hit and be visible. Worst case scenario, stab yourself. Yeah, it's a little edgy, but it works. Each copy has an ooze-like complexion, most often manifesting as a slimy sheen to their skin. The alchemist splits his current hit points between the copies. The copies use the same stats, share the same resources, and have identical equipment, except artifacts, which only one copy has. If one of the copies expends a charge or daily use from a magic item, the charge or daily use is expended from both copies. If one copy drops or gives away a thing, it disappears. Oh, that's a lot to read. Fun part. The 2 copies act independently, and each one has a full set of actions. At the end of the alchemist's next turn, he selects one of the copies, which loses its ooze-like complexion. As it becomes the alchemist, the other one dissolves into a fine mist and dissipates. If one of the copies is destroyed before this happens, the remaining copy immediately becomes the alchemist and it gains a permanent negative level. Should you both get fireballed to death, both copies collapse into formless goo. The alchemist can only be restored to life via resurrection or similarly powerful magic. And suddenly you have a flanking buddy. And suddenly the amount of D8s we're throwing around on the board just went up for the low cost of an immediate action. This ability has Nova written all over it and certainly could set yourself up for a big fall. But used wisely, this is probably an encounter ender. I see no other way to say it. It's terrifying. Grand Mutagen is next. A +6 or +8 with bone powers. Natural armor bonus. A +8 alchemical bonus to our dex. A +6 alchemical bonus to our con. And a +4 to strength. Why not? Sure. Be a little shadowproof. We'll take a -2 to our intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. But that's okay because, again, we're throwing our ability scores into the stratosphere. Did I mention that the alchemist can cast monstrous physique and stuff like that to further polymorph, to further raise that dex score? Yeah, it's terrifying. It's so terrifying, we're not really going to talk about it because this would be a 4-hour video if we did so. Then what if I told you we could tack on 15d8? I'll tell you exactly how it gets from 10 to 15 here in a second. Remember that this is only from one alchemist. No splitting mutagen here. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. At level 19, Eternal Potion, which says that if an alchemist drinks a potion that he extends, the effect of that potion becomes permanent until he chooses to make another potion effect permanent. Oops, invisible forever. Hope that doesn't make me go crazy in the long run and become like a Nightkin from Fallout New Vegas or something, all talking to myself because of the stealth boys and things. As an alchemist, we have a lot of the really good spells, but there's a couple of good spells that we will be missing out on. One of which we can get on a wand, one of which helps us with that extra d8 or 5 that's floating around. The other one we'll need a friend for. We'll talk about the one we need a friend for first, Mind Blank. So we can beat see invisibility. And I'm pretty sure also should beat true seeing as well. Blind sense, blind sight, scent are a little more difficult. But remember, eventually we're just spitting out a flanking buddy. And if we truly can't sneak attack, our damage isn't shut off that much if we just monstrous physique into a thing. Now, the other spell is one we're going to have to get on potions or wands. Sense Vitals is available to the Anti-Paladin, the Bard, the Ranger, the Sorcerer, or Wizard. It makes your eyes shine blood red and allows you to see the vital areas and weak points of creatures within 30 feet of you as a warm glow, which gives you sneak attacks stacking up to 5d6 or d8, at 15th level, stacking with other sorts of precision damage. And there you have it. It's a lot of damage coming down really, really fast. It's everything the rogue wanted to be, except it also has spells. And, sometimes drinks a thing that clouds its mind but makes it go really, really fast. God, you could probably put an Urban Barbarian level in there to make that dex go even higher. Yeah, no thanks. I'm already putting questionable materials into my body to fuel it. I don't need to fuel it with rage as well. I'd like that character to not die at 28. Yeah, anyway, what do you guys think about this build? Have you played something like this in Kingmaker? Have you played it at the table? How'd it work for you? Throw in the comments below. We'll talk all about what is rapidly becoming my favorite class. It's been a really long time since I've done an episode of min-maxing for fun and profit and walked away thinking to myself, I could play that. That would be really fun. It's more Path of War next week. The Umbral Blade prestige class coming off the Hidden Blade Rogue. Need more sneak attack? We got more sneak attack for you. See you next week.